I walk by this tree so many times, but I've never noticed it. Never once paid attention to it. But here it has been all my life, or for as long as I've been around it. Now, why have I never noticed it? Well, it hasn't caught my attention. What has caught my attention? Well, what's going on in my life, my thoughts, my past, whoever I'm with as I'm walking by the tree, whatever I'm thinking about, whatever it is that's populating within my internal sphere, within my consciousness, so to say. But this tree has always been there. So while I'm giving focus to other things, say my grades, my future, my fear, my worries, my frustrations, my hopes, my ambitions, analyzing what's happened in my life, remembering people, while I'm thinking about the world out there, right? All along this tree has existed, and I haven't noticed it. Isn't this part of the world? Isn't this something I could have focused on? Maybe looking at this tree and looking at it, inspecting it, feeling it, touching it, being with it, could have been of more value than whatever else I was doing at the time. It's a very interesting tree. I'm not a tree person, so I can't tell you what it is, what type it is, but is the bark gone, or is that what the bark looks like? I don't know. You know, and look, there's some ants. See, there's colonies of beings, of creatures, of whatever type that live in this tree. This is the home to some other set of things, just as my home is the home to me, and my colony, so to say, is my home, where my life forms and people like me are inhabiting and so forth. But this tree is as well for a different set of life forms, and it's absolutely unique. Certainly in terms of the way it looks, I've never seen a tree like this. But also, even if there are a million trees like it, or a billion, like in the Boreals or wherever, there's only one tree specifically like this. And my point is that I've never noticed it, and it's always been here. My mind was focused elsewhere. So, your focus becomes your reality. Whatever populates inside of your consciousness becomes what you see, and you can take it out to perpetuity. If you think people hate you, you can take that out to perpetuity, and then you might commit some hate act in return, which is what happens when you think like that, and it should be avoided, but that is the natural extension of what happens when you have a lot of negative stuff occurring internally. But the way you think about things is not necessarily as they are. Because I'm thinking about the world, right? In my life and so forth. But this has always been here, and I never thought about it. I've never perceived it. Maybe it could have stilled my mind, and maybe it could have made me worry less. It could have calmed me down if I just hung out here and saw and appreciated this thing, this tree. There's so many things to focus on, that you can focus on. There's space, there's science, there's math, there's relationships, there's entertainment, there's media, there's politics, there's nature. You can spend your whole life looking at clouds, theoretically, more or less. You could, theoretically, you know. You can spend the whole life looking at trees. You can spend your whole life making money. You can spend your whole life traveling. It could be anything. But where you've set your focus is what the reality ends up looking like. And no matter how tightly you hold that version of reality, there's still an infinitude more of things. There's so many trees in this world, no person can look at them all. And even if you traveled the whole globe and looked at every tree, by the time you got to the other end of the globe, the trees from the beginning would have changed, been cut, new ones born, and so forth. So reality is ever changing, and we don't necessarily understand it. We only know what we know. And we think we know a lot, but the amount that's possible for one person to know is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly little. And I'm not saying that as some, call for humility or anything. I'm saying that factually. There's so many things to know, and one person's mind can't contain it all. This tree has always been here, and I never knew it. As smart as I may be in other domains, there's one obvious facet of reality that I didn't see. But here I see it now. And here it's the subject of focus in my awareness right now and in this video right now. It's a nice tree. And so my point is that we can create whatever realities we want by altering our focus, right? In the first Star Wars movie, meaning the episode 1, Qui-Gon Jinn is a Jedi Master, and he sees this young boy, Anakin, who turns out to be Darth Vader later, and he says to him, your focus determines your reality. Remember that. Then what happens, and as he grows older, he becomes egoistic, he becomes very fearful, and he's very scared of his mom dying. He's very scared of his girlfriend or wife dying. And that fear drives him to get manipulated by the Emperor, who wants to use him. And then he becomes, he loses his humanity. He kills young kids. And then he eventually gets his arms chopped off, his leg. He goes from being a very strong and beautiful and powerful human to being this guy in a black suit who is on a respirator to live. And that might look cool because Darth Vader is indubitably an extremely cool character, but if you really look at it, it's a very sad state for a human to be in. And that came because he didn't focus on, he wasn't able to detach himself from the things that are temporary. He was so focused in his mind, he was very intelligent, and he wanted to apply all of his powers to controlling reality to protect his mom, to protect his wife. And that focused reality that he created became hellish. Then he got maimed and dismembered in a hellish scene in a volcano full of fire and orange and all this. He almost died there until he got saved by the Emperor. So if this tree is here, and then your fear is there as well, what do you want to look at? Which direction is worth focusing on? Which direction will cultivate better things within yourself? That's the purpose of seeing this, noticing this tree which is here, which I never noticed before. That there's so much more out there than my understandings of the world. There's so much more out there than any person's mind's understanding of the world. And we only keep thinking the way we think because we think what we're thinking is correct and true. Everybody thinks they're right. Let's set our awareness to better things. Let's empty it of excessive fear and focus instead on more beautiful things, like this tree. And then, as we do, we'll notice more and more and more and more and more beautiful things. And as one person does it, it spreads to others. Then you have a global humanity full of beauty, rather than a global humanity full of fear.